Hello guys, you know something, I always feel so happy when I see you watch my videos. It gives me some kind of morale, they get some motivation that keeps me the energy to do more videos for you. It's my wish that everybody in this country, Ghana, becomes a pro developer. Do you get it? A pro developer. Yeah, that is my wish. And it's part of the factors that motivates me every week to drop these videos. And I feel so happy when I see you also, you know, watch my videos whenever I post them. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Felix Yeboah. Please, if this is your first time watching my videos, I'll beg you to hit on the subscription button and subscribe to us. You know, click on the bell as well and join this family. In this video, we are going to talk about software design or systems design in software engineering. Okay, so a case study we are going to use is the attendance system. In our previous video concerning the understanding systems analysis and through to this discussion of the assignment, we give assignment and through to this one. So if you're not following, so you'd kindly pause this video and go back to watch that video and join us here. So is software design. All right, it's another cool aspect of software development. Very cool aspect of software development, which is as well not difficult. It's our day-to-day activities, our lifestyle that we have put together, in helping us address some issues, helping us understand the system's requirements from the user's perspective. Okay, so what is software design? Well, software design generally involves, it includes all the activities that helps us to transform user requirements to a form that programmers and other members of the team will technically understand. All right, users requirements are mostly in normal English form. They write leaflets of issues, requirements and other things that they want, the specification that they need from you, the developer. All right, so they'll present that thing in that booklet form. Some will be pamphlet binded and other things. Some will just also tell you, okay, I need this, I need that, I need that. Okay, so when after receiving all those requests from the client, you have to also make it in a form that if any other developer within your team picks it, the person will understand the client's request in their field. All right, so the software design helps us using their tools. It help us to transform the user requirement to the developer's point of view, the developer's point of view. Okay, so technically we will say that we can also say that it converts, human readable language, English, to actual codes. Do you get it? So it's a transformation, period, or transformation ladder. Let me put it that way. So we have the user here, the requirement here, and we are channeling it from here, transforming it to this side, so that we can get a software developed for the user. All right, so the process that we can do, the activities that goes that operates between the user requirements and the software, the end product, this middleware is what the system design is all about. Okay, so there are tools that we use in doing these software designs or system designs. All right, first tool that we talk about in this video is the Pseudocode. In some books they will tell you is what they call it, structured English. So when I say a pseudocode is an artificial or informal language that helps programmers to develop codes. Okay, so for example, if let's say like I'm speaking normal English, this is formal English. Do you get it? So and it's formal language. All right, so if in the other sense, my language that I'm giving out here is not formal. I can speak Pidgin or I can speak any other language. Do you get it? when that one sets in, I'm trying to talk about something, but not using the formal or the standard English to explain it, or the formal language to explain it. Do you get it? So it becomes a false language. It becomes a false language because, so for example, if let's say I'm going to school, or like I'm asking you something, or will you be coming, or will you be going to the place in another language? I can talk like, hey Charlie, like what's up? You go the place, like you go the place. You understand? So when I flip the language to different language, it's the same. Charlie, will you go to the place? Or Charlie, will you come? Or like, will you be able to come? Let me put it that way. Or please, will you be able to come? That is a good English. Do you get it? That's a formal English. In a pseudocode, it can be like, oh Charlie, you go fi come. Like, you go fi come. Do you get it? It's meaning the same thing, but one is formal, one is informal. Do you get it? So that is the nature of pseudocode. Alright. So in the first point of, like, just after the systems analysis, we try to organize the whole requirement, the whole user requirement in a form that will mimic an algorithm in such a way that we can easily write codes out of it. Do you get it? So in that sense, all that we are doing is pseudocode that you are writing. Alright. So there are examples that you can cite in here. Your normal day-to-day activities. Alright? Your normal day-to-day activities falls within the pseudocode. Alright? So let's say we want to alright. So let's say we want to do this. You wake up from bed. So let's work within this block. You wake up from you wake up from bed till you take your breakfast. Alright. Let's work within these boundaries. When you wake up from bed, 1, you pray. 2, you check your phone and see whether you have messages on it. Then you have to respond or missed calls and other things. 3, you decide to go to the washroom. 4, you go and brush your teeth. 5, you either go and take your bath. 6, you go prepare your food. 7, then you take your breakfast. So you see, averagely, you have 7 here, 7 steps here. Alright. So if you decide to sit down and structure them, on a normal day, if I asked you that, say, give me your itinerary from bedtime, like as you wake up till your breakfast, you recite it in an essay form. Alright. But the difference between that essay form and this pseudocode that I'm talking about here is this. It's a structured English, alright? And it's informal language. Alright, so we start. Number 1, I do this. Number 2, I do that. Number 3, I do that. There will be some instances where you take decisions. Okay, do I feel like even eating? Because not all the time that you wake up that you want to eat. So there are some instances that you ask yourself some questions. Alright? Do I feel like eating? If yes, you do it. If no, you forget eating, then you just move on. Do I feel like, checking my phone? If yes, so at any point in time in our life, we do all these checks without knowing. Okay, without knowing. Alright. So in this video, in this chapter that we are discussing, the system design, alright, we are going to draw attention on these little things that we do that we don't really focus on. Do you get it? In the introductory video, I was telling you that computer science or software development is our lifestyle that we have just, structured it. Do you get it? It's our lifestyle that we have structured it. So it's not anything far from our daily activities. Right? But in these videos, in my videos, I'm going to link our lifestyle to program. You appreciate it very well. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's continue to see some of the examples. Though I've cited some of the examples, but I'll try to show you some of the other examples too, focus on our case study, because I don't want us to move away from our case study. The example I cited is for you to understand the whole concept. So let's say in our case study, we are doing something about attendance system, an attendance system. So in attendance system, there are some of the activities that will take place. You have to take record of the staff before we try to do a login and other things. So I'll cite some examples here, two of them. That is creating staff, writing pseudocode to for creating staff, all right, and writing pseudocode to log into a program, all right. So in my next in a few minutes to come, I'll do that presentation. Like we'll move from the discussion point of view to classroom. All right. So when they get to the classroom, I'll talk about the examples and you see how we present those structures. All right. Yeah. So if it's getting interesting, kindly comment it. Whatever feel that you feel, emotion, anything, how you feel about the presentation, drop it in the comment box. Okay. It makes the whole presentation interactive and more lively. All right, so some other tools, the other tools that we'll be discussing in this video, all right, in this session, all right, we have the context diagram, the use case diagram, the flowchart diagram, the entity relation diagram, sequence diagram. Okay, so we're talking about these ones too very soon, like very soon. When we switch from the discussion to the classroom, we'll discuss all of them. You get it in relation to the attendance system that we are doing. Okay, all right. So, if you haven't installed the Draw.io software, in the earlier videos, I presented on some software that we will be using for this, channel, and one of them was the Draw.io. We are yet to use the Draw.io. So, if you haven't installed, kindly go to my videos and search for installing the prerequisite materials. Okay, then you go to the website, you download it, and you install it because we'll be using it very, very soon. Okay, all right. So I'll pause here and switch to the classroom. All right, stay tuned. Great. So now we flip to the classroom mode. So we have your statement. Now, considering our daily routines, there are some things that we do when it comes to taking decisions. For example, when you want to do item A and item B, you have to choose between which one you should do first based on a certain condition or priorities. Okay. In that sense, there is a common statement that we use, which is the if statement. And that if statement determines the condition that you want to use, that you want to do, the condition that you want to do. Okay. And it gets to a certain point to where we do some things repetitive, in a repetitive form. So we have let's say when you go to work and there are times allocated, so you start work at 8, go for lunch at 12, you close at 5 or 4. So between 8 and 12 you do an iterative activities over there. Okay, you do iterative activity over there. That is, you work until it's 12, then you break. Okay, so that motion also forms the iterative form of our daily routine. So in the pseudocode, writing or in programming, we have two statements that we also use. The first one is the conditional statement and the looping statement. So in the conditional statement, we use numerous or different forms of if statement. And the looping statement too, we have several of them. We have several the for, the do, the while, and other things. So in this presentation, we'll be focusing on these two major statements: the conditional statement and the looping statement. So let's see how the conditional statement looks like. In the conditional statement, we have we have the if statement. And the if statement, this is the syntax of the if statement. And trust and you should note that this syntax here for this if statement runs through all programming languages and all aspects of life. So let's say um you want to do you want to do tax A. Okay, you want to do tax A. So I'll do tax A if you get it. If the condition. So you state I'll do tax A if tax A is my first priority. Then I will do the tax A. So that instructions for the statement will be in here. So this is the syntax of okay. Then we have the if else statement. This is the syntax for the if else statement. So we have the if you state your condition, then the instruction, else the instruction. So if this condition is positive, you do this. Else means the opposite. You do this one. So let's say I'll go to let's say I'll travel if my ticket is ready. Do you get it? You travel if your ticket is ready. So if my ticket is ready, then I'll travel. Else I'll not travel. Do you get it? So the condition here is your ticket should be ready. So your traveling will base on the readiness of your ticket. So I will travel if I will travel if my ticket is ready. Else I'm not traveling. So that is how it is. So you see, our daily routine mm, has been structured here. That is the difference. Our daily routine has been structured here. So if you take time to analyze your daily routines and try to make them structured, identifying the conditions in it, you realize it falls within these statement that we have here. All right. So now let's go to the next conditional statement. We have the nested if, the nested if statement. So in the nested if statement, it's like an if statement within an if statement. Do you get it? But there comes a time where we make several decisions on a task. Okay, several decisions on a task. So this is the syntax too for the nested if statement. So we have the if condition, then another if we test another condition again. If condition, then statement, else another statement. Okay. So this else goes with this nested the inside statement, the inside if statement. Then we come to this else too, which also satisfy the outer statement. All right. So if condition, then this statement here, this condition here. So if this condition is satisfied, then we move on. Else means this condition didn't wasn't satisfied. So we jump to this else statement. So in the next slide, I'll present some examples that will make us understand the implementation of the nested if statement and the other statement. Okay. So let's flip back. We have if statement. This is a condition. If condition, then you have your if statement here. You have the if else statement. You have the if condition statement. Then else. Then we have the instructions here too. So that is for the if else statement. Then we have the nested if. Okay, that is if statement within an if statement. Okay. So the same if statement, within another if statement. So that makes it simple. Anyway, then we go to the looping statement. So in the looping statement, we have the while loop. The while loop too, this is the syntax for the while loop. So while the condition, then we have the do while loop. So do statement while this condition is met. So it will loop until this condition is achieved, then it will stop. Okay. And here too, the condition will be here. So it will also loop until this condition is met. All right. Then we go to the third looping statement, which is the for loop. So for the for loop, the condition here, it's not only one. We have three of the parameters. Okay, let me say the condition is one together with other two parameters. Okay, so for this statement to execute, all these conditions, that these parameters here must be satisfied. Okay, so we have the first parameter here as the initial value. So for the initial value, the condition, then the increment or decrement. So either you move +1 or -1. Okay, then your statement runs. So I have an example here in C. So this language is a C language. All right, it's a C programming language. So what we have here is we first initialize this number, this variable. So this is a variable, a number. So the number holds an integer. We have integer, we declared an integer number variable. Okay, then we come to our for. So this one is not part. Our concentration should be within this block, the for to this block. All right. So we have this initial value here to be number equal to 1. That is the initial value. Then the condition says number less than or equal to 10. All right. So what should be the increment or decrement? We are saying number plus plus. Number plus plus. So number plus plus means number plus 1. That is what it means. Okay. So going forward, when we start the programming, I will explain this number plus plus and all those things into details very soon. Okay. But this example here is for you to understand these key terms here: initial value, condition, statement, and what they call it, increment and decrement or decrement. So here it means start from number 1, then end. Here is less than or equal to, so it means the 10 is inclusive. So it means start from number 1 and end at number 10. Okay, start from number 1, end at number 10. Then for every increment, for every loop, you should add +1 to it. Okay, so so we have here we have to print. So it means from this very condition, all right, this very condition means we should loop. Okay, we should look to print 1 to 10 numbers. When you run this code, this block of code here, will run, the outcome will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. Because for it, when it first picks the 1, okay, when it first picks the 1, it will print the 1. All right, the next print, it will add 1 to it, make 2. The next print, it will add 1 to it, it will add, because of this condition here, this increment. So it will be adding 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. When it meets 10 and it tries again, the condition has been met. So that at that point in time, the number that we have is 10 or 11. When it's 11, it's greater than the 10 here. So the code will not execute. So automatically it will break and it will display your result for you. So that is the meaning of this for loop here. Okay. So this is the implementation of this syntax. Right. So in the syntax, we say we have the initial value, which is the initial value number is equal to 1. Number is equal to 1. We have the condition, we have number less than or equal to 10. Then we have the increment, the number plus plus. So this is how we implement the for loop too. Okay, so we move on. So let's go through some of the examples of pseudocodes applying our conditional statement. Okay, the if statement. So from the intro video, we realized the pseudocode is it's an informal language that helps programmers develop algorithms. All right. So now let's write a pseudocode for creating stuff in our attendance system, on our attendance system. You get it? If you call the assignment that you worked on. So remember, it's a structured English. Anything structured, comes with a method, like it presents itself in a methodical form. Okay, so we have number 1, number 2, number 3, so on and so forth. So in the first point, we start the application. All right. Number 2, we gather staff bio data. We are creating stuff. So we gather staff bio data. That is the name, age, sex, phone, etc. Number 3, we validate the data received. Okay. Then in the validation, we take decisions. So now let's see. So we will say if data received is valid or if data received valid, then so we have the if statement here. Then do something. Then insert data into staff table. Then print data saved successfully. Else, so the else means data received is not valid. Do you get it? All right. So if data received is valid, do this. So if this condition is met, do this. Else, if this condition is not met, then print error message. Then we close the end. We end the if block. This if block. Okay. Earlier on in the syntax, we saw a curly brace, but here we are because of the test that we are doing, because we are writing them in English form. So we present it the curly brace with the end if. So when you see end if, it means we have it represents the curly brace. All right. Then number 5, we end. So here we have the start and the end. Start and the end. Okay. So this number 2 to number 4 represents the pseudocode of just creating stuff on the attendance system. I hope you are following. Okay, so let's go to the second example. So after creating the staff, a staff will try to log in. Try will try to log into the attendance system. So that one we will start. Then we go on. So we gather, you enter or gather the staff name and staff password. Staff name and staff password. So when you are logging on to any system, we are requested to enter either your username or your password. Then we validate the entries. Validate these entries, the staff name and the password. Then if we test it. So if staff name and password valid, okay, if the staff name and password they are valid, then we compare the staff name and the staff password with the stored records in the staff table. When I talk of table here, I'm talking of database. We will also go to database. All right. We treat database into details. Okay, so when we validate the staff name and the staff password, they are valid. Now we have to compare that data, staff name and staff password, with the data that we have stored in our table, in the staff table already. Okay. Then we compare them again. So after comparing, if staff name and password is found, then we call the procedure or function redirect user. Else, if the staff name and the password is not found, that is the else. That's what it means by the else. We go to step 2. And what is step 2? Step 2 is enter staff name and password. All right. So this in its own becomes a loop. And don't forget we are using the nested if statement here, if else statement here. All right. All right. So we end this if. This inside the internal, there's the when you say the nested if here. We end it. Then we now come to the else of the main if statement. All right. So we said if the staff name and the password valid, if they are valid. So if they are not valid, all right, then we go to step 2 again. We enter it again. All right. Then we end the if, this main if. Okay. Then we end the procedure or the pseudocode. Do you get it? So you see how we implemented the nested if here. It looks very simple. It looks very simple. We do this thing every day, every single day. Especially when you are taking decisions. We do this thing every single day. All right. The difference are over there you do it without knowing, unconsciously. But here we do it consciously. Do you get it? So we present your unconsciousness to structured consciousness. That is the difference. All right. Okay. So having gone through this, if you have any question, you can feel free to drop them in the comment box. All right. And if you have not subscribed yet, kindly hit on the subscription button too. Anyway, so I'll go through this flow, this with a nested if. So we said we should take the name, enter your username and your password, staff name and password. You validate the entries that you have entered. If the username and the password, if they are valid, then you compare the staff name and the password with the stored record that we have in our staff table. Mhm. Before we compare anything, we are logging in. So anytime you are logging into something, the record, the record supposed to be there already. Then we compare what you are entering to the record that we have already. That is what we are doing here. So we compare them here. All right. Then we check. Okay. We decide and see if what we have entered now is found in the record table. If yes, then we redirect the user. All right. If no, then we have to enter it again. So we have to go to step 2. Then if this statement is not valid, the username and the password is not valid, we have to also go back to step 2. Okay. All right. So this is the second example of the pseudocode or structured English. All right. So let's take our first exercise. You see, during the intro video, I was talking about an example, a scenario concerning when you wake up from bed through to when you take your first breakfast. All right. So now I want you to write a pseudocode on such activities. All right. So write a pseudocode on your activities that takes place when you wake up from bed through to when you take your breakfast. Okay. And you present it to my email, felicianoyeboah@gmail.com. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So the Unified Modeling Language, the UML. The UML helps us developers to represent user requirements into visual form that can be understood by the system analyst and the user themselves. So you get it. So we have several of them as I presented in the intro video. So we have the context diagram, we have use case diagram, we have the flowchart diagram, we have entity relation diagram, we have the sequence diagram. There are more of them, but depending on your project that you are doing, you choose what you want to do. Basically, context diagram and use case diagram, they behave the same, but different approach. They behave the same. These two helps the user to understand, a bit of the developer's under point of view. Okay, so we just draw this one. We work on this one for them, for the users and the system analysts to really understand the perspective from the requirements in the developer's point of view. All right. So let's consider some of the notations of these ones. Okay, so let's first see the context diagram notation. So in the context diagram, when you want to draw the context diagram, these are the notations that we use. So we use this circle to represent the process. This shape here, represent the data store. The data store is like a database, right? Then we use this. We use this shape here to represent the entity. Okay. Then the arrow sign here to represent the data flow. The data flow. All right. So anytime you want to draw or design a context diagram, we have to. It's a must. These are the conditions that you have to. These are the object notation that you have to use. If you don't use them, it means you are not using the right tools for the diagram. And that one, for if any developer sees the diagram, he will just identify that hey, you are not doing the right thing. Okay, so use the right tools for the right work. Okay, so let's see for the use case diagram. So the use case diagram, these are the notations to basic diagram. So for the purpose of this presentation, I will take you through how to prepare and the context diagram and the use case diagram and the flowchart diagram. Okay, flowchart diagram will be in the next video. Okay, so the notation for the use case diagram, we have this oval symbol here. Okay, oval symbol here. This oval symbol here is called the ellipse. Right, the ellipse. So, so if you do mathematics, you understand this ellipse. So this oval represents the use case. You get it, and the use case basically represent the functions of the system. functions or the major activities of the system. All right, so represent them in this use case. The actors here represent all the users. Okay, we have represent every element which interacts with the system. All the entities, the users that interact with the system. We represent them by this symbol and this actor. We call them actors. Then this is a connector. This line is a connector, which represent a connection. Okay, this represents a connection that is a channel for transfer of information between two. So this is a connector. It's a line drawn between this and the use case inside this boundary, the system boundaries. Okay, the system boundaries represent the system itself, and all the use cases are captured inside the system boundary. Okay, so that is the definition of this notation for the use case diagram. When we start very soon, we will go through how to draw this use case diagram. Okay, using our Drawio software. So let's go to the flowchart diagram. So for the flowchart diagram too, these are the symbols, and these are their names. So when you start, the start and the end. See, when we were doing the pseudocode, we had start and end. So that is the symbol we use to represent the start and end. And the arrows determines the directions. Okay. Then input, if you want to display information to the user, you get it. So when we were doing the get data or gather bio data and all those things, so we display this to the user. So enter your password, write all them in this symbol, right? Then this symbol to represent the processes, the rectangular symbol here represent the processes. So if let's say you are processing your data, all right, processing your data, any activity that is done by the system, you write them, represent them in this symbol, this rectangular symbol. Then this diamond symbol to helps us to do our decision, to make our decision. So the if statement that we were talking about here previously, we present them in this diamond shape here. All right. So this is it for the flowchart. And basically, when you are doing a flowchart diagram, we rely on the pseudocodes a lot. We rely on the pseudocodes a lot because the pseudocode is structured in a flow diagram, in a flow form. Sorry, in a flow form, structured flow form. Because we start from 1, 2, 3, 4, so and so up to the end point. So when I'm doing the flowchart diagram should also start from the top through to the end. Okay, so when we get to the flowchart diagram, we realize we'll be matching it with the pseudocode that we've structured. Okay, so even up to this point, you can even realize, like you can even project. You get it when we're doing the pseudocodes. If another thing they are talking about, see they are being represented here. We have the start and end. We have the decision here. We have this thing here. They are all found in the pseudocode that we wrote. Okay. So we'll go into details with this one, with the flowchart diagram too. In our next video, the flowchart will be in our next video. All right. So attendance system entities. So let's try to identify some of the users or the major elements of the attendance system. So we have here, before you can draw any diagram in the UML, you have to identify your entities and the functions of the system. When you jot all of them down, you get it. When you jot all of them down, representing them on the diagram become very simple. Okay, so that is what you want to do here. So first, you identify. You will need a staff. Okay, you create staff. Then among the staff, we create the HR. Then we create the administrator. Then we create reports. Then have to give us report. Then we have to pay the staff. They have to go on leave. All right. Okay. Then we have salaries here. So these are the major entities that I have identified from the antenna system that we are yet to develop. Okay. All right. So we'll play with these ones on our context diagram. You get it? we'll use these ones to represent our context diagram and the use case diagram very soon. And mind you, for the use case diagram, the use cases are not supposed to be more than 20. They are mostly small, use cases in there. We don't because they don't represent the entire system. It's just a module of the system just to give an overview of what the system is going to do. We represent the understanding of the requirement by the developer. Okay. So when that one is agreed on, is accepted, then the developer can take it from there and move. So you don't have to load your use case with a lot of, um, you know, your system with a lot of use cases. Okay. All right. So this session is complete. We'll flip to the Draw.io software. So as I said, if you haven't installed the Draw.io software, kindly go back to my video. The one I did on installing prerequisite material, search for the Draw.io, then install it. Okay. So now we move to the Draw.io. So I've already opened it. So I'll create a new project here. Okay. I'll create a new project here. And in here, I'll type context diagram. All right. And I'll click on create. So I have my workflow here. I have my workflow here with this side representing the notations that I'll be using. So you have the actor here, you have the circle here, we have the over here, I have this is the name. The name shows the ellipse, and we have our directional connectors and so on and so forth. Okay. So that's why I was saying this tool is best. It's best for our presentation. It is best for our classes here. All right, so now let's draw our context diagram. Let's draw our context diagram. So how to use this system? I will need my circle as my process. So either you click on it or you drag. So when I click on it, it will come. I can also drag it onto the web form. All right. So any form you want it, you can get it. Okay. So when I click on it, it will come. Then I'll just position it to like wherever I want it to be. All right. Repeat it a bit. Okay. Then I present my entities. So I'll click on it. It's a rounded rectangle. So I'll click on it, then position it to wherever I want to position it. Okay. I'll click on it again because I need several of them. For my entities, the entities that we identified were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6. So I'll need 6 entities scattered around the circle. Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Need 2 more. I can bring this one here. Then bring this one here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you can just arrange it to your perfection, how you want it to look like. You can just arrange it like that. Okay. So I think this one is in line here. This one is in line here. Then this one is in line with them. That would be nice. All right. So come down. All right. Good. So I've presented my notations here. So I have to now put captions in them. So when you want to add a text, okay, when you want to add a text in the notation, you just have to double click. When you double click, it will activate the text option. All right. So I'll enter here the name of my system. Attendance, sorry, attendance system. If I want to increase the font size, okay, I'll select all.
by either dragging or just select all. So you do Control A. Control, you press and hold the Control key, then you press the A key. So select all. Then I go to the font size here. So you have the style and the size and other things. So wherever you want, you can just play around them. Okay. So I just increase my font size to 18. 18 will be too big, or 18 is okay. Okay, so 18. Then I'll bold it. Right. Okay. So when I go here in the entity, I'll type staff here. Staff. So now I'll type all of them. When I'm done, then I'll come and increase their font size and then I'll bold it too. So moreover, you can do it as and when you are doing the thing. Or let me do it as I'm doing it. So I'll change the font size here to 18. Then I'll bold it. Then I'll come to this one. I'll enter HR, select, change font size, bold it. Come to admin, select all, bold, change font size. Then over here, can say report or salaries. Salaries are very important. Then I'll say I'll need my reports. Reports. Select all, bold, change the font size. Then the last one, leave request. Select all, bold, change the font size. Okay. So it's getting interesting. So now let me get my connectors, my line to, indicate the relationship between these entities to the inner system. Okay. All right. So it can be done in a simple way. You see over here, we have some arrows pointing, 4 arrows pointing outside, like pointing out of this notation. Same thing applies to all of them. When I hover the mouse here, I'll see the 4 points. It helps you to connect to these entities easily. However, you can also do your own. Okay. You can also do your own by dragging the directional arrow here, connector here to it, to point to it. Because here we have more than, if we're having only 4, okay, notation around this circle, you get it, then it will be very simple to use the arrows that is presented by this notation. Okay. So now in our case here, I'll click on this this directional connector. Okay. As soon as we click on it, it will just appear in the center like that. And you have to drag it. So when you want to drag it, just hover the mouse on like this. You see the mouse pointer on it comes in 3 forms. Comes in 3 forms. We have the first one that looks like the hand. Okay. Then we have this with the 4 arrows. Then we have this with the plus sign. All right. So if you want to move it, you just have to make sure your mouse changes, the pointer changes to this 4 arrows. You click on it, and wherever you want to put it, you just drop it there. All right. So now this one has to go here. Okay. And it's not straight. So you can still change. That is for your own, for your own discretion. You want to make it look nice. So we have one here. Then have another one here. Connect. This is connecting this. Another one. This is connecting this one from here. Another arrow to be connected this, another arrow here to that. Okay, another arrow here. Okay, so we have it like that. So this is our simple context diagram that we have presented here. Okay, very simple one that we have connected here. So now, if let's say you want to write something on it, want to write something on the arrows, we can say, okay, if you want to write something on the arrow, all right. When you double click on the arrow too, so make sure the pointer changes to the plus sign on the notation. Okay, on the notation. So when you double click, okay, when you double click, it also allows you to enter something there. All right. So let me say log in. Select all. Here, increase the font size. Now bold it. So you see, I have here as login. So it means HR will log into the system. Okay. HR logged into the system. This is a so this the arrow is coming from the system to the HR. So this one cannot be logged in. So we can change this text to, let's say, response. But the response is coming from the HR. So there should be another connector from HR to the system here. All right, okay. That is if you are adding relationships, you want to show the relationships between the two. That is how we do it. Okay. So this represents our simple context diagram for the attendance system. Simple context diagram. So let me complete this one. Then, or at your side, at your end, you can replicate them on. Okay, your hands on. Try your hands on it. Then it will help. It will make you understand the thing very well. So the HR, put another arrow here, then connect it to. So this one, you see, don't want the arrow to appear in that form. So having drawn the main line, then I'll come to the center here. Have a faint blue point here. So I'll click on it, and drag it up. So when I drag it up, how I want the shape to appear, I'll just design it that way. So I want it to come this way, and let's see, come that way. So from the HR to this way. So now here I can enter my login here. In bold. Okay. So what it means is the HR will log into the system. Then the system will do its validations and send response to. Okay. So that is what I want the system to do. Me, I want the system to do. You will also think of different things. So you just create it on your application. Sorry, yeah, in your application, the context that when you are creating your diagram, you can do how you want your system to do. Okay, from my perspective, this is how I want to do. It doesn't mean you're supposed to follow the same thing. The concept is supposed to be the same. Okay, so let's say when I'm done and I want to write something, I want to write the name of this diagram here. I can choose to write at the top here or beneath here, but I write at the top here. So that one, when you double click, just double click, you can have your text here. Or same text is in the tools here. When you click on the text, it will come, drag it to wherever I want it to appear. Okay. You double click, then you enter what you want to enter. So let's say attendance, attendance system contest diagram. All right. So this is how it's looking like. I don't want it this way. So I have to stretch the edges position it well, double click, and increase the font size 24, and I'll bold it. Okay, so now we are done. We are done with our attendance system context diagram. Okay, done with the system with the context diagram. So now let's save it. Okay, let's save it. So in saving it, I'll come to File, then go to Save As. Then I'll choose the location where I want the diagram to appear. So I'll go here, then search for a proper location. Or let me put it in my desktop. So contents diagram, and I don't want the extension. I don't want it to be saved as an XML file. So you click on the save as type, then you choose PNG. Choose PNG, then save. So when I go to my desktop right now, I will see this image over there. Okay. So now let me go to my desktop. Let me go to my desktop. Then I click on this. Here I have my content diagram. When I click on it, it will take time to open. Now Windows 10 comes with this. It's on delay, as I don't know why it takes much time to load these. So let me flip back. When it comes up, we'll go there. So you see how nice it is. Very simple to develop. Our context diagram has been implemented, right? You can add more tools to it. You can have database, this data store here, the data storage. You can add it as a database. Yeah, you can let's even add it. So let me put this one somewhere here. Data store. Okay. So let me say database. Add anything. Now add a connector to it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now therefore, let's see if our diagram is ready. All right, so it's here. So this is our picture. What we just saved. Okay, you see how nice it is. So this is a simple context diagram that we have developed, that we have designed. Okay, so sometimes when you give a contract to a developer to work on it for you, you'll be presenting these diagrams to you, and it will be so new to you that you don't know your left from your right about it. Okay, it's nothing. It's just a context diagram trying to understand what you really want him to do. Okay, so this is a context diagram. So let's go back to our diagram here and let's do small another example on the use case diagram. Okay, use case diagram. So we create a new file, new project. So here we have a flowchart diagram, so you can even click on it. No, we're not doing flowchart. So let's create a blank diagram and name it use case. Sorry. Use case. So we have a blank diagram, a blank workspace. All right. So this thing concerning the use case diagram, we have to first set in our boundary, square boundary, right? Okay. So we have our boundary, created our boundary, and the boundary represents a system. Okay. So we have this. So now let's introduce our activities, the use cases. All right. So we have the first use case. This one will be this one, which will generate reports for us, right? Or you first create the user. You first create a user. So You can write, say, create user. Create user. This activity, this function will be performed by somebody, by an actor. So we will come there. We just want to list our functions, the system's functions here. So as usual, I'll select or bold it to 18. Okay. So I can do copy and paste as well. So if I do, because I don't want to be doing, changing the font size and bolding it anymore. I just want to copy this one. So you click when you select it, all right, then you click, you press and hold the control key and the C key to copy it. As well, you can also right click on it, then you select the copy, you click anywhere in, you press the control P, control control V, or you right click anywhere, then you click on the paste. Let's search for paste. You don't have paste here. But control V can paste it, all right? Or I think we can have duplicate. Control D, good. That is nice. So we just duplicate it. We have the same settings in here. Then where we have login. People will log into the system, right? So we have login. Then we'll do Control D to duplicate it. Then let's say you have reports. System will generate reports. So we have generate reports. Okay. So let's play with this three. Okay, let's play with this three for now. Okay. All right. So now let's identify our actors. So actor one. So actor one will be here. We have our staff. Actor two will be here. Actor three will be here. So we have staff, admin, manager. So let's see. This actor, I want to change the name of the actor. So this actor will be staff. Let's go this and change the font size. Staff. This one will be admin. And this actor will be HR. Okay, this actor will be HR. So now let's connect them. So we use the line to connect them. So the line here, we have this. So we have to connect the staff. And what will the staff be doing? The staff will be logging in. Okay. So the staff will just log in. The administrator will also log in. So the administrator will log in. The administrator can also create users. And also create user. Alright, good. Then the HR. The administrator also logs into the system. Okay. So see how simple it is. I'm just doing drag and drop. Also logs into the then the HR on the other side also logs into the system, as well as also creating users and getting reports. Salaries can be added to it, right? Salaries can be added to it as well. So with this, I can duplicate it. Just increase the size of the boundary. So I'll change the caption here to salaries or process salaries. So the process salaries will be done by the HR. So you have my HR here. Bam. So the use case, I have to get the use case title. So I'll bring my test here. I'll double click and enter attendance system use case diagram. Okay, so I'll move it and increase the font size. Then now I'll stretch the boundaries to make it look nice. So now therefore I'm done with the use case diagram. Wow, this is so nice. Eh? You see, it's so nice and simple. We are just done. So we have our use case diagram here too. So we have now represent our requirement to pseudocode to a diagram. We represent our diagram, our requirements, the written requirements to a visual form. So as I said earlier on, the UML, okay, the UMLs, that's the context diagram, use case diagram, flowchart, they transform, okay, they transform the user requirement to visual point of view, visual display. Okay, so let's save this one too. So in saving this one, you go to the same process. We click on file, you go to save as. So we change the type to PNG, then we save it on our desktop. All right. So let's go to our desktop and see, search for it. Okay, here it is. So I double click on it and it comes. So this is what we just did. All right. This is what we just did. Okay. So I believe that to this point, we can now, use the Draw.io software with ease. It's not difficult at all. So whatever diagram that you see, you can play around it. Okay, whatever diagram that you see, you can play around it and see how nice work with the software, Draw.io. Okay, so I'll end this presentation here. I'll end the presentation here and prepare ourselves for the next class. The next class we'll be discussing pseudocode and flowchart diagram. Pseudocode and flowchart diagram. Take our time and go to pseudocode and flowchart diagram. Then when we are done with that one, we give ourselves some assignment. Then we move to the development, the software development. Getting interesting, okay? All right. So thank you for joining me to this point. All right. If you have any questions about the presentation, all right, you can drop in the comment box and I'll respond them accordingly, as I always say. Okay. And if you have not subscribed yet to this channel, kindly subscribe. Okay. Kindly subscribe and join this big family. Okay. So see you in the next video. Thank you.